right. Good morning, Ducks, or afternoon or evening or whenever you're watching or listening. Today on our episode of 3 to 4 Minutes with a Duck, we have a brand new duck that no one knows about. He flies around the unit in secret, and if you're lucky enough to have met him, then you're definitely lucky. But we have Lieutenant Reed Bidgood with us today. So, sir, welcome, and why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, good morning. I'm Lieutenant Bidgood. I've been on station for about a year now, the 318th Cyber Operations Group. However, I'm in a weird flux, and so I've been the equivalent of like the B-2 stealth bomber flying around the unit. No one knows who I am or what exactly, I've been up to. But yeah, I'm the deputy flight commander for Alpha Flight. I miraculously have landed with some linguists, and I actually have a background in Mandarin Chinese. So it was just luck of the draw. When I got to Fort Meade, I was originally a cyber operations intelligence analyst, and as I was waiting to get into the building, I got to work at Dreamport, which is a rapid prototyping office for cybercom over in Colombia. And so up until this point, I've been doing uh, security operations center analysis, looking at logs, playing around with Nmap, and doing a little bit of hacking on the side, or at least I'm trying to teach myself how to. So it's been fun.
Awesome. And not only is it lucky that you landed in that flight because of your background, but I know there's some super savvy cyber ducks on that flight that I'm sure you've met Sergeant Wiggins and have touch base with him. But we've got
Mhm.
lots of linguists that like cyber on the side as a pastime. So you're lucky, and they're just as lucky to have you as you are to have landed in the right spot. So I'm glad you're part of the squadron, and thanks for giving me some time this morning. Let's get started. What isn't real but you desperately wish it was?
Hmm. I'm gonna have to think on that. I mean, I'm very pragmatic, so I don't spend a lot of time like I know, like, in Intel, everyone likes to play Dungeons and Dragons, and, like, we were having a conversation at shirt lunch the other day about Harry Potter, and we
Yep.
were talking about, different houses and the Sorting Hat. Hmm. Yeah, I I would like to see some kind of, like, extraterrestrial activity. Space Force is, now a thing. People are
There you
transferring
go.
over to Space Force, so I'll go with that.
Okay. No, I like that. And Sergeant Thien yesterday in his interview mentioned aliens too. So I think we've definitely like crossed the gambit of all the nerd things that we can like I've checked all the boxes this week. So I'm doing good. Dungeons and Dragons, I don't even I don't begin to understand. I think the coolest thing my 1 year out of Intel when I was in security forces, because growing up in Intel, like you said, all Intel folks like Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, all that. And I own our like I lean into our weirdness and I'm cool with it. But when I was in security forces, I met this cop that was just so angry because his flight chief was making him go to some function, which was causing him to miss his Dungeons and Dragons event or gathering that someone had put a lot of work into. I was like, have you ever considered a life and intelligence? And he's like, what? I'm like, never mind. So there are other nerds out there. They're just speckled throughout the Air Force. Um, what would be the worst movie sequel ever made?
Ooh, I would generalize and say once you get to a certain threshold of like movies that just build on top of each other over and over. I've never seen the Fast and the Furious. I know that's a sin, but once I see like 8 or 9 behind a movie, with the exception of Star Wars. Star Wars
Right.
is great. I lose all interest.
I'm with you. I would say that so I thought of all the like long series. Harry Potter, obviously, we talked about how my love for Harry Potter, but the Lord of the Rings trilogy, like those kinds of things where it's a continuing storyline that continues to evolve makes sense. But yeah, I've seen one Fast and the Furious, and then I stopped there because how fast and how furious can you possibly get uh, to like exponents of 10 or whatever? That's yeah, I agree with you that those ones are kind of ridiculous. It's pretty much the same story every time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think it goes back to the lack of creativity
yeah,
and the lack of like any kind of let's just say like effort put into the
yeah.
design of the movie, the plot. It's like, okay, you've got your cookie cutter. No, that's boring. Put something that's worth your time out there.
Some
So I'm
character development. So you like
mhm,
really like well put together films. My husband is a action adventure guy, and I think the least amount of thinking possible to watch the movie. Like he really relaxes watching movies by not having to think. I
mhm.
like movies that I have to like really dig into and think and character development and plot lines and all that stuff. So I'm with you. He can watch Fast and the Furious. I'll stick to good stuff. Would you rather have unlimited sushi for life or unlimited tacos for life?
Sushi.
Sushi, that was quick. You're
Boom.
a sushi lover?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
What's
no,
your favorite?
I I don't know if I can say a favorite. I think that the whole presentation of sushi is interesting because there are so many different kinds, and that's what makes it interesting. If it was just, sashimi, like with tuna, then that's gonna get boring, that's gonna get old. Have some variety, you know?
There you
It's,
go.
yeah, I'm a big culinary nerd, so one of my
You're a
hobbies.
foodie?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, and, one of the things I like to do is I like to make different ethnic foods, and while I'm cooking, I'll play the music of the country that I'm cooking. So, I made a paella dish the other day, and I had, mussels, chicken, everything you can possibly imagine, up to and including saffron, and
Ooh,
I was playing Portuguese music in the background, and I had a nice, red wine from Portugal, and I was just nerding out. So,
that's awesome. That's the kind of nerd I can get into. One, because I like to eat, but I like that you immerse yourself in the culture while you're, exploring different cuisines. So I'm going off script here since you're a foodie. What's the least what's the lamest food that you love that would like turn a critic's nose up every time?
oh, easy. Liver and onions.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, because my dad would make it all the time growing up, and I just enjoy it, which is
um,
like the weirdest thing.
it's definitely, I'll agree, it's weird, it's gross. I'm not a fan, but my mom used to make it growing up because she loves it and it's her like guilty pleasure. Like if you ask her what's your favorite food, she's one of six kids, and growing up my grandparents would let them on their birthday pick what everyone ate for dinner, because normally it was just whatever they had in the house. And
Mhm.
everyone hated my mom's birthday. Her brothers and sisters hated her birthday because she would pick liver and onions. But she would make it about once or twice a year, and she'd make us like every food that my mom made. She would make us at least try it before we decided we didn't like it. And I fought every time. I'm like, I don't like this. I've tried it 100 times. Just I think for me it's texture. I'm a
Mhm.
like I just can't get past the texture. But um, that's funny. Yeah, it is weird. It's a acquired taste, maybe. I would say.
Yeah, yeah, to say the least. It has to be prepared properly, and you can't eat it often because it's so rich, but
Yeah,
it's actually super good for you. Tons of vitamin E, tons of vitamin A. Um, yeah, liver is actually pretty great. You just can't eat it too often with all the cholesterol.
you're not selling me on it. Maybe maybe in another lifetime. She used to really like up the ante too and make liverwurst sandwiches on occasion, which just the awfulest. All right, one more. What's something you get wrong almost every time you do it?
Planning. Just
Planning?
like, yeah, like that is one thing that I have always struggled with, and it's something I have been desperately trying to improve. So I'm a procrastinator, and I like to
Guilty.
leave things. Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? Like it's so much easier to procrastinate. But one thing I realized, it's like the one thing I can't procrastinate on is if there's a certain thing I have to plan, I have to do it immediately because time is your best friend. So I was responsible for the holiday party for the debt this past winter. And that was one thing that I made sure I started planning immediately. And I did learn my lesson though, because the day of the holiday party, I went in an hour early into the venue, and made sure that everything was good to go. And there's always those bits and pieces that are falling into place. And I was like, whoa, 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 we need 5 more chairs over here, and we need to do this. And where can we put the gifts for the white elephant? And so I've learned my lesson, but it's still one of those things where, you just
I
have to practice by doing.
Yeah. So no future business of like in wedding planning or event planning for you.
No.
Me neither. And like I said, and like you probably saw in the interview yesterday, I'm definitely a procrastinator. I've embraced it. I'm good with it. But I'm like you. I like planning because it calms me down. Because otherwise, if I wait to the last minute, like you said, it's inevitable. Things are going to fall through the cracks. You're going to have
Mm-hmm.
pieces you got to fix. I made the mistake of volunteering to run the senior NCO induction ceremony this year for our Master Sergeant selects. And each time I join the Zoom meeting to talk about the planning and all that, I'm just like, why? Why did you do this? You're not good at this. But I've built a good team. And if there's a lesson that I've learned as a senior NCO, it's surround yourself with good people that can make up for your weaknesses. And one of my best first sergeant friends um, is the complete opposite. He likes to plan. He likes organization. He likes timelines. He's a project management guru. So I was like, hey, you want to help me out with this? And then I provide all the fantastical ideas, and then he organizes it for me. So yeah, practice makes perfect, but planning is awful. I'm not gonna ever get on that train. but good for you, sir. Was the holiday party fun?
It was a lot of fun, and it was interesting managing everything. I think everyone liked it. It was at the Ram's Head, so there was good beer.
Ooh, yep.
And
I'm sold. I'm there.
yeah, exactly. Right? That's all you need to hear.
I think this year the Booster Club was throwing around the idea of doing it at the Great Room in Savage Mill, and there's a Ram's Head Savage Mill, and I said I don't care where the holiday party is, but if we can go hang out in the Rathskeller in the basement of the Ram's Head afterwards, sign me up. I'll be there.
Awesome.
All right, sir. This is the time where I turn it over to you, so you can impart some wisdom or share some parting words with the unit.
So I've got 2 things. One, I want to share the weirdest experience I ever had with leadership. And I think that it would be a little bit illuminating because when I was a senior in ROTC, I had a cadet come up to me and ask me about like some personal stuff. And it turned out that cadet had something going on in their personal life that, no one had known about. So I thought that it was really important that I bring that up to our leadership. And I'll never forget my detachment commander at the time. She is a total badass. She's awesome. She was a B1 Wizzo, dropping JDAMs. And what I want to say is radical active listening changed my life because when I went up to her, she dropped absolutely everything. She just like stared me directly in the eyes and was like, "What's going on?" And it blew my mind because I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, what? Ah! And it was she. I can't speak her, sing her praises high enough because like that really changed my perception on a lot of things and redirected like what I thought about how to handle certain situations. And she was awesome. And yeah, we were able to help that cadet out, which was great. And the second part I would say is we sit behind, desks a lot of the time. Stand up and walk around occasionally because if you're sitting down all the time, your hip flexors are going to get tight, your lower back's going to hurt, and do some yoga because it is so critical for your long-term health.
Those are
And
Yeah, I'm super excited because that's something that I'm very passionate about. I struggled after having my son with rebuilding my core strength, and it was like elongated back muscles and crunched up, contracted abs, and sit-ups and push-ups were awful, and of course lower back pain that everybody suffers. So listen to the lieutenant, do yoga, get up, walk around, use a standing desk if you have one, practice good back health. and core health, because you're absolutely right. We're all like hunched over.
Mhm.
And after years and years, 18 years I've been at this now almost. And yeah, it takes its toll on you. Sorry, I cut you off. Were you finished? You were
No, that's
okay.
that's 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 a great segue. Yeah, no, do some yoga.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Lieutenant says do some yoga, and then I'd be remiss if I didn't address your first point, which is something I also feel very passionately about, and that's, you touched on the point which was so surprising to you, but for me, is something that I think is inherent to the first sergeant job: being a good leader, being a good wingman friend, and that's, yeah, absolutely being able to unplug, set everything aside, and be an active listener. I sat in on a first sergeant screening board for one of our ducks. Um, and that was one of the things she was asked, what if you become a first sergeant, what's one thing that you want to make sure that you do that you've seen, maybe first sergeants not do great in the past? And she said, be present in the moment, be present when that airman needs you. And I think we can all take a little bit of that. Yes, we're all busy, but we're never so busy that we can't put a pause on what we're doing to take care of another person, whether it be a wingman or, another service member or coworker or something like that. So I appreciate those words, sir. So do yoga and be present. And thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. It's great getting to know you, and I'm glad you're a duck.
Hey,
Have a
well,
good day,
thanks,
sir.
sir. Oh, wait. One
Oh,
last
yeah.
one last fact because we're talking about ducks. My grandfather was a decoy carver, and I have a bunch of like duck decoys all around my parents' house because that was his hobby. And so I thought that was the funniest thing ever. And
You were meant to be a duck. Like, there's
absolutely.
no if, ands, or buts about it. You are meant to be a duck. You are meant to be on Alpha Flight. This is your destiny, sir. That's awesome. My grandpa was not a decoy carver, but he was a hunter and still is an avid hunter. And he had similar growing up, real old wooden duck decoys, and were always cool to look at. But yeah, look, you were born to be a duck, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is your unit. I'm glad you're part of it, and I hope you have a great day.
You too, shirt. Thank you.
Thank you.